They arrived on a still Thursday. No warning, no transmission, just Titanic ships blotting out the daylight like it was theirs to take. People froze on sidewalks, rooftops, highways, phones raised, live streams running. Some wept. Some dropped to their knees. Others, like me, lit a cigarette and waited. Not because I was brave, just too damn hollow to be scared. I'd seen war already. Iraq, Syria, South Sudan. But this wasn't war. This was execution cloaked in steel and pride. The council knew. Smug alien bastards knew Earth. Wasn't prepared. Or so they thought. I had the inside scoop. Deep intel. From back when I worked black files in Orion Archive. They'd labeled Earth volatile. It's culturally wild, too emotionally erratic. Poor candidate for smooth occupation. Still, they pushed ahead. Why? Because they trusted numbers, systems, superiority. What they didn't account for was spite. Human spite. When their cannons opened on New York, it wasn't surgical. It was total. Manhattan vanished. One single pulse of white heat. No dialogue, no hesitation. My brother lived there. I watched him disappear on my screen, pixels flaring white, then dead black. No warning, no sound, just ... erased. That's when I felt it. Not rage, not sorrow. Something colder, ancient, revenge. I drove west. No plan. Just a duffel bag, a burner phone full of old contacts, and a fire I hadn't felt in years. Word spread. Cities collapsing, governments imploding. The UN shattered like porcelain. NATO went quiet. China locked its borders. America bled. But America bleeds loud. In every diner I passed, every run downtown, I saw it building. Not terror, not submission. Something worse. Something sharp. Veterans handing out ammo from garage stashes. Teenagers splicing alien signals on school rooftops. Farmers welding machine guns to tractors. They thought we'd fold like the others. The Andari, the Vitari. The U all bowed when the stars went black. But Earth was raised on fire and grit. In Denver, I found the first resistance pocket. Not military, not official. Just furious. Stubborn humans with nothing to lose. They called themselves Ashers, named for the fallen cities. I didn't apply. I showed up, handed over my creds, dropped a blueprint of their dropships I'd stolen from Archive, and said, I'm here to kill. That night, we took down our first alien ship. Homemade rockets, scrambled pulses, suicide drones cobbled from garage parts. And when that beast of metal screamed down into the Rockies like a dying titan, the whole mountain shook, like Earth itself was clapping. They weren't gods. They bled. They howled. And when we dragged one from the wreckage, torn and shaking, it looked at me scales burned, eyes wide with something I never expected. Fear. It hissed something in its native tongue. I didn't catch it. But later, a linguist in our network translated the phrase. It meant, they warned us about you. That was the first time I smiled since I lost my brother, because now they knew. Even their precious council knew. Earth was no easy conquest. We were dirty. We were vengeful. We were the nightmare they walked into blind. We were going to make sure they remembered it. The days blurred. Time stopped meaning anything. Sleep came in scraps. 20 minutes here, 10 there. Dreams. We gave those up early. Too many. Ghosts. Too much adrenaline. We weren't soldiers. Not yet. But we had the one thing stronger than training. Purpose and grief. People adapt to war fast when survival's the only option. Within a week, the Ashers weren't a ragtag bunch anymore. We became a razor. Precise, deadly, no ranks, no uniforms. Just skill and will. You either fought or you didn't last. I ended up somewhere between strategist and trigger man. The aliens had boots on the ground. Now, if you could call them boots, 8-foot nightmares. Reptilian centaurs with armored hides and biomech plating that rippled over muscle. No chatter. They didn't need it. Plasma cannons, bigger than engines and drones that could feel your heartbeat under rubble. They thought they were untouchable. but they didn't know humans. We don't play fair. We booby-trapped their landing sites with IEDs built from junkyard batteries and nails, turned busted trucks into explosive coffins. When they moved in formations, we jammed them with dirt-cheap signals and rained down drone swarms strapped with Molotovs. And when they broke formation, we hunted. One mission stuck with me. Colorado Springs. They parked a mobile command tower near the ruins of an Air Force base, probably using it to manage patrol routes. Taking it out wouldn't end the war, but it would say something loud. We didn't wait for orders. 8 of us, ex-military engineers, one ghost-eyed sniper with a patch that just said Kilo. We moved at night. Thick clouds overhead. Rain stabbing down. Visibility was trash, but we needed it that way. Our gear was scavenged. Old cums. Worn boots. Some of it literally glued together. They had thermals, we used mud and foil-wrapped blankets. They had scouts in the stratosphere, we strung camo nets under bridges and used mirrors to blind there. Optics, they called it suicide. We called it was retribution. By 0300 hours, we were in position. Kilo had climbed an old water tower, half collapsed, rusted through. I was with Gideon, a burned-out Marine, face scarred like melted wax, eyes like stone. He didn't talk much, just worked. His rifle was a custom .50 cal mod that made him look like a tank on legs. We crawled through busted homes, shattered bricks, and wet earth filled with the bones of dead neighborhoods. The alien tower ahead pulsed green, faint but steady. It wasn't just built, it was grown. You could feel it breathing if you got close enough. Some kind of living tech, biomechanical tissue woven through metal. Horrifying, ingenious. Kilo. Came through on coms. 2 scouts left side. 1 tower drone. No civvies. Clean shot. Light it, I said. 3 seconds later, the drone dropped like a stone. Then the scout's one shot clean through the skull. The other fell mid-step. No cries, just the thud of wet meat. Silence again. It moved quickly. Inside the tower, it felt like walking into a throat. Everything pulsed. The floor vibrated like a heartbeat. Alien engineering had this way of making you feel like food, not intruders. We reached the spot the techs called the core spine. It looked less like a power source and more like an artery torn open. It shimmered with heat. The moment we touched it, alarms screamed. High-pitched sonic waves made our bones buzz. 90 seconds. That's all we had. As we pulled out, they came. 5 of them. Not grunts. These were elite. Jet black armor, moving like wolves, coordinated fire that hit hard and clean. These bastards had seen real combat. They were ready. We opened fire to keep them pinned. I watched Gideon take 2 plasma rounds to the chest stand he kept shooting. His arms didn't stop until his body gave out. He didn't scream, just collapsed. Mid-trigger pull, the gun still firing as his life ended. Kilo nailed 2 from above. Rest ducked behind alien supports, laying down bursts that shredded cover to dust. I dove behind a busted console, slammed a mag into my rifle, and hoped. The timer was still ticking. Then it happened. Not a bang, not an explosion, a roar, like a black hole collapsing. Like heaven slamming shut on hell, the entire tower convulsed. Beams snapped. Walls tore. A river of green fire spewed from the center like acidic blood. I ran. Didn't care if I died, just didn't want them to win. We lost 3 that night. Gideon Monroe, 1 tech kid. A girl. Named Tamide, only known her a few hours. She had this smile like maybe we could still fix the world when all this killing was done. We limped back to base around sunrise. Rain had stopped. The sky looked bruise deep, purple laced with gray. Ashers clapped when we arrived. What we'd hit wasn't just any post-it, was one of 4 major control hubs in the sector. Without it, Alien Command lost half their air power out west for at least 7 days. It was a win. A rare one. I felt nothing. Still no official word. From the council, out, but our hackers picked up a glitched transmission. Alien dialect filtered through some busted AI still crawling on a repurposed Chinese server. Translated, it read, Earth not compliant. Recommend reevaluation. Threat level. Exceeding forecast. That's when it hit me. This wouldn't be over quick. This was going to drag on bloody, brutal, and long. In the weeks that followed, resistance cells began forming connections. Not through old governments, they were gone, maybe for good. This was something else. Ground up block by block, hill by hill. It wasn't pretty. We even fought each other sometimes. Supplies, territory, egos, rogue squads acting like kings of rubble. But under the mess, something real was forming. New kind of unity. Not built on nations or borders, but hate pure. Focused hatred for the things that tried to cage us. Reports came in of victories, small and wild. In Brazil, insurgents ambushed a whole armored column in the rainforest. In Russia, someone fired a forgotten nuke and shot down a mothership over the Urals. In South Africa, ancient hunting clans lured an alien recon force into a natural trap and obliterated them. Everywhere they stepped, we bled, but they bled with us. I started keeping names, not for memory, it's for vengeance. Gideon Tam, Monroe, my brother. The list kept growing. Pshers. This is Freepoint 9. We just took out a transport. Need. A vac request for 12 civilians. Command, this is Warsaw Cell. Plasma tank down. 2 KIA. Enemy in retreat. Echo here. Coordinates incoming. We located one of their queens. Humanity was still here. The furious ones. The shattered ones. Ones too dangerous to kill easy. And we weren't done yet. They had better tech. More troops. Full orbital control. But they didn't have what we did. They didn't have revenge. Didn't have that quiet, cold-burning hate. The kind that drives you to crawl bleeding through. Collapse buildings just for one more trigger pull before your body quits. They didn't have Earth. Not really. 'Cause Earth wasn't built from flags and parliaments. Earth was us. Loud, chaotic, relentless. Born from fire. Raised in rage. And if they thought they could break us, then they hadn't just miscalculated. They were screwed. War reshapes a man, burns out the soft parts, leaves only the bones to shoulder a rifle. 3 weeks after the op at Colorado Springs, I sat on the edge of a collapsed supermarket roof. In Wyoming, eating cold beans out of the can with dirty fingers. When a message came through, a scout team up north near the Grand Tetons had found something. Not tech, not wreckage, something buried. At first, I didn't care. Most of the radio traffic we got came from crazies or trauma-wrecked men chasing shadows in static. But this one was different. The message was encrypted using Black Archive. Ciphers. Deep-tier stuff. Only a Preshalon command used it. Which meant either the sender had clearance or they'd found someone who did. Recon Foxtrot 2. Asset located. Confirmed non-council origin. Request immediate extraction. Coordinates. Attached. No air support. Maintain silence. Possible relic classification. Repeat relic classification. That word stopped me cold. Relic. Most people didn't know what it meant, but I did. Back in the Orion archives, I'd seen pieces, scraps of lost reports, redacted files, glimpses. In ghost databases, relics weren't alien, they were ours. Or at least, they came from Earth. Before the Council ever revealed themselves, they watched us. For generations, maybe longer. The real reason they kept their distance wasn't our weakness, it was our unpredictability. Our world didn't make sense to them. Historical gaps. Tech inconsistencies. Seafloor ruins that didn't match any known culture. They hid the truth. Scrubbed it from records. Buried it deep, 'cause it scared them. And now, someone had found. One, I left the Ashers under Kilo's lead. The man barely spoke above a whisper and never missed a shot. That was good enough. I took a scavenged bike, my pack, and enough weapons to send a clear message to God. It took 2 days. Rode back roads, crossed shattered bridges, and cut across fields, patrolled by drones. Twice, I had to dig into wet soil. To avoid their sweeping lights, the machines humming through the trees like robotic predators. When I got to the Tetons, the scout team was already gone. Slaughtered. 3 bodies dumped in a gully near a gutted mining shaft. Burned black, limbs curled like dead leaves. Plasma damage. Definitely council weapons, but something was off. The shots weren't tactical, they were executions. This was a message. I found the entrance half buried beneath snow and moss, hidden behind a crumbled rock wall. It wasn't natural. The stone had been worked, smoothed, marked, symbols cut deep into it. No words, just geometries. Perfect and painful to stare at. Inside, the air dropped. It was colder than outside, wrong cold. The deeper I moved in, the quieter it got. No echo, no breath cloud. My boots stopped making sound. It was like the tunnel didn't just swallow noise, it devoured it. About 50 feet in, the corridor opened into a massive chamber, walls of matte black stone. In the center, a pedestal. Atop it sat a strange object. No lights, no switches. Just a twisted black shard, cube-like in structure, faintly glowing with red pulses, like a dying star or a heart. I didn't touch it, not yet. Instead, I circled the chamber. The walls were covered in carvings. Worn but familiar, not because I'd seen them, but because something deep in my blood felt like it had. Not human. Not alien. Older. Something else. I flicked on my scanner. It screamed. Radiation. Electromagnetic anomalies. Seismic tremors. This place was alive. Dormant, maybe, but humming with something immense. Then I heard it, not with ears. Inside my skull. A single word, looping like an echo behind my eyes. Release. I stepped back. Breath shallow. Gun up. Nothing moved. The pedestal remained. The relic still pulsed. I should have walked away. I didn't. Because I knew this wasn't just just a weapon. It was memory. A warning. A key. The council didn't fear us just because we were violent. They feared what we were built on. Earth wasn't a primitive rock spinning in obscurity. It was a sealed vault. Someone had locked it a long, long time ago. I took the relic. The moment I touched it, the air dropped 10 degrees. The walls rippled. Lights stuttered. My skin felt like it was turning inside out. But I didn't die. The glow dimmed, and the cube folded in on itself, sharp, graceful, like origami collapsing into a singularity. It became a sliver, no larger than a coin. It floated above my hand, then slipped into my skin. Quiet. No pain. Just gone. I blacked out. Dreams tore through me. Stars on fire, council fleets screaming as they fled, shadow swallowing galaxies, something ancient rising from beneath long-dead worlds. And Earth, always Earth, not broken, not hunted, origin. I came to in the snow outside the cavern. I didn't remember leaving. The relic was gone. But my chest burned with something that didn't cool down. Then I heard it. Direct to the skull? No signal distortion? No encryption? Just raw, clear sound. Subject? Human. Identity? Redacted. Actus. Active. Active. Phase. Wake. Initiated. It wasn't Earth tech, and it wasn't Council. Something else was watching. And now, it was alive. When I got back to base, the world was already shifting. Alien troops were withdrawing but not fleeing. They were consolidating. Nervous. Our scouts reported orbital repositioning. Surveillance drones flew lower, not to dominate, but to search. They were looking for something. I didn't tell the Ashers the full story. Just said I found a dead zone they could use for safe passage. But Kilo wasn't an idiot. He kept watching. Me, like I had a countdown ticking inside. Then came the broadcast. Not from the Council. Not from any human network. This hijacked every screen, every signal, every frequency on Earth. And the voice, clear English, Earth is not what you were. Told, you are not what they claimed. The invaders have awoken the old fire. They have trespassed upon the vault of the First War. The voice was flat. No gender, no age. You will suffer. You will burn. But if you survive, you will remember. Then nothing. Cut to static. The next day, 5 Council ships detonated in low orbit. No projectiles. No trails. Just 5 brief, perfect implosions like someone had whispered and unmade them. Panic followed. Council orders stuttered. Commands turned to garbled loops. Soldiers dug into fortresses like kids hiding under blankets. We intercepted panicked transmissions, shouted coordinates, fragmented cries. But one phrase echoed across every intercepted channel, every dialect, every tongue the sleepers have stirred. We didn't know what it meant, but I did know the relic hadn't granted me power. It had reminded me we'd always had it. We just forgot, or were made to forget. That night, I sat beside the fire at base, rifle on my knees, cold air biting. Ashers gathered, sipping makeshift brew, swapping stories of raids and kills. Tequila sat, down beside me, quiet, calm. Then he said, "It's inside you, isn't it?" I didn't respond. He nodded anyway. "Good," he said. "Good," I asked. He leaned in closer, because I think we're going to need something worse than us to win this. And far off in the sky, something moved. Not a dropship, not a drone. A silhouette wide as a cliff, silent as extinction. I knew without knowing that it wasn't alien. It was ours. They came at dawn. No more subtlety, no probing, no testing. They weren't measuring resistance now. They were purging. We'd set up a temporary base 2 clicks outside Helena, Montana. An abandoned ranger outpost rebuilt with welded junk, tripwire claymores, and riflemen perched like ghosts in the mist. Snow had already melted. The forest floor was soaked, wrapped in fog. The attack hit like a meteor. COMMs died first. Static. Flooded all bands open and encrypted. Techs screamed at dead monitors, punched panels. By the time they realized it wasn't interference, it was too late. We were being jammed, targeted. The sky caught fire. 10 drop pods. No ships. No aerial support. Just burning steel capsules rocketing from orbit, crashing down with bone-breaking force. Trees bent. Earth cracked. The first one landed within 100 yards. Then came the new enemy. Not the same infantry we'd grown used to. These were different. Leaner, taller, armor fused into flesh like it had grown out of their bones. Their weapons were part of them, blades on forearms, claws like razors. No guns, just teeth, speed, and rage. The bow warriors, Council Blackguard, the kind of unit most people thought was legend. Even in the archives, they were rumored bio-engineered to do one thing: exterminate. This wasn't an assault. It was an announcement. No more games. The first wave hit the fences. Plasma sliced through steel like it was twine. Our minds went off. But it didn't matter. The Blackguard danced around them like they knew exactly where we'd planted every one. On the roof, Kilo was already firing, laying down hellfire. Weapon. It wasn't just tech. It was memory. A warning. A key. The Council didn't fear us only for our violence. They feared what slept beneath us. Earth wasn't a dirt ball. It was a vault. And someone had sealed it long ago. I took the relic. The instant my fingers brushed it, the air went icy. The walls pulsed. Lights died. My skin felt like it turned inside out. But I didn't die. The glow faded and the cube folded in on itself like origami, vanishing into a black shard the size of a coin. It hovered above my hand, then slid into my skin soundlessly. I blacked out. Then came the dreams. Fires, worlds dying. Council ships. Fleeing in terror, a shadow spreading across galaxies, something rising from dead worlds, and always, always Earth. Not a victim, a source. I woke in the snow beside the mine. No memory of how. The relic was gone. But my chest ached like fire. And wouldn't cool? Then came the transmission straight into my head. Clear, raw, subject. Human designation redacted. Artifact retrieval confirmed. Asset status active. Initiate phase wake. Not Council tech. Not human either. Something else. Something old. And now, It was awake. Back at base, the world felt different. Alien troops weren't retreating, they were pulling back, consolidating. Recon drones started flying lower, slower. It's not to patrol, to scan. They were hunting. For what me? I didn't tell the Ashers the whole story. She said I'd found a dead zone they could run supply ops through. Kilo saw through it. He watched me like I might explode. Then the broadcast came. Not ours, not the council's. It hijacked every screen, every wave band, and it spoke fluent English. Earth is not what you think it is. You are not what they told you you were. Ow. Invaders have stirred the old fire. They've broken into the vault of the First War. The voice had no gender, no age. You will suffer. You will burn. But if you endure, you will remember who you were. Then silence. The next morning, 5 council ships blew up in low orbit. No trails. No warning, just ... gone. Like reality had snapped its fingers. Panic swept. Their ranks' orders dissolved. Broadcasts went static. Troops locked down hard. We picked up their comms chatter, fear coordinates screamed over and over. And one phrase in nearly every tongue, the sleepers have stirred. We didn't know what that meant. But I did know this. The relic didn't give me power. It reminded me we'd once had it. Long buried, forgotten, waiting. That night I sat by the fire. Rifle on my lap. Wind cold against my face. The Ashers were laughing, sharing war stories. Kilo sat beside me. Quiet, unreadable. Then he said, "It's in you, isn't it?" I didn't answer. He nodded anyway. "That good?" I asked. He leaned closer. "Because I think we're gonna need something worse than us to win this war." In the distance, something moved across the sky. Not a drone. Not a ship. A shadow big as a mountain. Silent, and I knew without doubt that wasn't alien. That was ours. They struck at dawn. No hesitation this time. It's not scouts, not probes. Okay. We had a forward outpost set up to clicks out of Helena, Montana. Reinforced ranger station. Steel plating claymores. A squad heavy with rifles. Snow had thawed early. Mist hugged the trees. The strike came like thunder. First, the comms died, every channel hit with static, even encrypted ones. Our techs freaked, scrambling at consoles, but it wasn't a glitch. It was a jamming field. The sky lit with fire. 10 drop pods fell no. Ships. No escorts, just fire-coated steel coffins dropping like meteors. They slammed into the soil so hard trees shook from their roots. One landed less than 100 yards from the fence. Then they came out. It's not normal grunts. These were faster, taller. Armor fused to skin like muscle. Forearm blades. No guns. It's just teeth. Claws. Speed. Blackguard. Council's butcher units. So rare most folks thought they were myth. Built only. To kill. No mercy. No prisoners. This wasn't war. It was a message. No more games. First wave hit the fence like lightning. Plasma cut through metal like water. Our minds? Useless. They moved like they already knew our layout. Kilo was already on the roof, holding fire with a repeater he'd wired to a car battery. I was in the trailer trying to reboot comms when the whole thing shook and a scream pierced the air, high-pitched. Final, they were inside with. A custom repeater hooked to a car battery. I was in the ops trailer, trying to bring the comms back online when the ground shook and a scream cut through the haze. High-pitched, short final. They'd broken through. I snatched my rifle and sprinted outside. Chaos met me, smoke, men. Yelling, blood sprayed across everything. One of the blackguard had torn straight through the barracks like paper. Limbs strewn across the ground, bodies gutted, faces frozen in terror. One turned to face me, its head tilted. Saw my own reflection in its visor. Then it charged. I don't recall firing. It's only the recoil, the shots echoing, and it not slowing down. I emptied a full mag into its chest. Nothing. It lunged. I rolled aside, claws slashing my shoulder, burning hot. Pain like lightning crashed through my body. I hit the dirt hard, dropped the rifle, yanked a knife from my belt. It rushed me again. That's when the relic reacted. Not because I told it to, just instinct. The pain vanished. My limbs moved faster than thought. I ducked, slid aside, and drove the blade into its throat with strength I didn't know I had. The blade didn't kill it. Something burned from my hand through the knife, straight into the creature's body. It shrieked, then liquefied. Smoke billowed from its sockets as it collapsed, twitching once, then nothing. I staggered back, lungs heaving. My hand glowed faint red, skin pulsing like ember, but no damage, no burns, just raw energy. The relic was active, and it wasn't going dormant again. We lost 34 out of 47 people that day. It wasn't a fight. It was an execution, a purge. They came for me, no doubt. Those blackguard soldiers weren't hunting rebels. They were hunting the relic. We buried the dead behind the compound. No time for graves. Just scratched names on helmets or dog tags. Tied to branches. Kilo sat slumped by a scorched truck, left leg gone below the knee, wrapped in pressure gauze. "You shouldn't have come back," he said. "I couldn't leave it unguarded," I replied. He nodded faintly. "They know now, don't they? It's only going to get worse." He was right, because 2 nights later, we got a ping from a deep cell in Alaska. Scrambled signal, barely legible. Just coordinates in one word: convergence. No one knew what it meant at first, but I did. From back in the archives, when I illegally accessed a restricted sector, I'd found an ancient file, encrypted, but buried under layers of firewalls. It talked about a failed op from centuries back. The Council had tried it on a planet like ours, full-on invasion, forced assimilation, but it backfired. They called it the convergence event. It meant the world turned on them. Not with armies, but memory and purpose. Not all worlds were made to be ruled. Some were made to resist. That planet burned, not just the aliens. Everything. Because the relics didn't just protect, they erased. That was the Council's true fear. Not human resistance, but Earth herself rising. I traced the signal left. Kilo in charge again, what was left of him. He didn't argue. Just told me not to die unless I planned on dragging hell with me. The coordinates led me to the frozen ruins of old Anchorage. Broken towers, roads iced over, no life. But deep inside a collapsed tunnel through the mountain, I found them. Not survivors awakened. People who'd encountered relics over the decades. Fragments, echoes, remnants, changed. No longer entirely human. Not alien either. Something new. They called themselves the Remembered. Most looked ordinary. Some had glowing eyes. Others bore shifting patterns on their skin like scars drawn in living light. One man spoke with a voice that echoed even in whispers. "We've been waiting," he said. "You know who I am?" I asked. "We know what you carry." My fists clenched. "What is it? A weapon? A signal?" "It's not what you carry," he said. "It's what it's waking in the world around you." I frowned. "What does that mean?" He pointed toward the ceiling of ice. "Earth remembers every scar, every war, every empire that bled on its surface. The relic doesn't give power, it revives." Power. Another stepped out, a woman with silver hair, her arms laced in alien script that swirled like ink in water. "Wherever you go," she said, "you're reawakening the old ones. Machines lost in deserts. Beacons buried in." We didn't move like soldiers. We moved like predators. Wild, relentless. The North Platform fell in under 12 minutes. We lost 6 fighters, 9 more injured. When we broke through to the Central Command Bay, the relic in my chest was glowing. Red, vibrating louder than the gunfire around us. I reached out and touched the console just a brush and everything died. Lights, screens, power. The alien infrastructure shut off. Like it knew who I was. Like it obeyed. I didn't feel victorious. I felt fury, because I finally understood. The Council never feared humanity for our aggression. They feared us because our very existence broke something in their order. We were never meant to survive, much less evolve. After Shatterglass, their answer was swift. Chicago vanished.
Oh.
No warning, no soldiers. Just an orbital drop, a tungsten spear the size of a train car, pure mass, pure velocity. No explosion, just annihilation. They called it Deterrence Protocol Zeta. We called it cowardice. They couldn't beat us face to face anymore, not without hemorrhaging troops. The relics were spreading, burrowing into old sites, corrupting their machines. Their drones were failing. Their armor was cracking. Even their elite squads started faltering. 2 days later, we captured another broadcast. The translation shook us. Human escalation exceeds tolerances. Recommend elevation to elder intervention. The elders. I'd only seen the term once before, buried in a black file tagged Sigma-class event. The council weren't the apex. Something was above them. And if they were reaching out now, it meant they saw what I already knew. We weren't just adapting. We were transforming. The Remembered reported another convergence event. A new site, beneath a long-dead Alaskan mining town, supposedly abandoned for seismic risk. But that risk came from deep below, from something old and alive. I took 20 to investigate. We all knew it was a suicide op. Every mile north we traveled, they hunted us. Council drones circled low, scanning. We moved at night, smeared ourselves with earth, cloaked in foil mesh, slept under stone, ate ice and rot. 2 froze to death before we even reached the zone. But when we did, the mountain moved. It didn't crumble.
Oh,
It opened like lungs taking their first breath in eons. Inside lay a colossal machine part. Flesh, part stone, inked with the same language etched into my body from the last relic surge. I didn't know how I knew, but I did. I walked to the heart, placed my hand on a pulsing core, and whispered the one word I'd kept from the dreams. Awaken. The valley ignited, not with flame, but with memory. Visions of ancient war, skyships as large as cities, beings born of fire and stone, not alien, not human, but known. Earth's forgotten firstborn, and then stillness, no sound. Only the weight in my bones telling me something colossal had turned. We returned to base empty, the Ashers gone. No fight, no blood, just words smeared in mud across the wall. They took them, crude map coordinates, a processing center. They weren't killing us anymore, they were learning.
I didn't.
Stop. I gathered what remained. 3 men, 1 bot, 2 mags apiece, and we hit that place like a blade through silk. They didn't expect to charge. They expected fear. Retreat, but we didn't flee. We carved through. We didn't move like trained troops. We moved like beasts. Instinctive, feral. The north platform fell in under 13 minutes. 6 down, 9 more torn apart, and we stormed. Central control, the relic seared in my chest, humming louder than any rifle. I brushed the console just a touch and every node blinked out. Lights gone, power gone. Alien tech dead. Like it recognized me. No pride, just rage. Because it hit me then, the council didn't fear our brutality. They feared our existence. Feared that we weren't supposed to be like this. We shouldn't have survived. After the glass settled, they struck back. Hard. Chicago erased. No soldiers. No negotiations. Just a rod from orbit, a metal spear, bigger than a bus, slamming down with no blast, just force. Da. They called it Protocol Zeta. We called it cowardice, because they'd lost the ground. Couldn't take cities without sacrificing units by the dozen. The relics were waking. Buried tech was rising. Their gear jammed. Their bots shorted. Their soldiers cracked. Panic crept in. Then came a new, intercepted Kun 2 days post-Chicago. The translation, human escalation exceeds projections. Casualties unsustainable. Recommend elder intervention. I'd only seen that word once, locked in a Class Sigma file. On forbidden responses. The council wasn't the top rung. There was something higher. If they were calling for help, it meant they understood what I had suspected. We weren't just holding out. We were changing. The Remembered told us another site activated beneath ruins of an Alaskan mining town, abandoned for unstable terrain. Truth was, that tremor came from deep below, something buried, dormant, pulsing. I took 20. We knew it was suicide. Each mile north, we were hunted. Interceptors scanned low. We moved at night, covered in mud, foil mesh, living on snow, and expired packs. 2 froze before we reached the target. Then the mountain shifted, not collapsed, open like lungs gasping after centuries. Beneath ice and stone, we found a cathedral-sized machine part. Bone, part rock, etched in symbols I'd seen crawling across my arms. When the last relic lit, I didn't think, I knew. I walked up, pressed my hand on the pulsing core, and spoke the only word left from the dreams. Awaken, the valley lit not. With fire, with memory, wars lost to time, skycraft larger than continents. Giants forged of lava and stone, beings neither alien nor human, but familiar. The first ones. Earth's true ancestors. Then silence. But deep in my marrow, something had shifted. Camp was empty when we returned. No struggle, no blood. Just a message in mud on the wall. They took them. A map. Coordinates. Council processing station. They weren't killing anymore. They were dissecting. I didn't wait. Took what was left, 3 men, 1 drone, 2 clips each. Where we didn't sneak in, we tore in like blades through fabric. They weren't ready. Used to fear. 2 humans running from light. But we didn't run. We cut through. Brick by brick, steel by steel. We tore their labs apart. Found the Ashers in cages. Starved. Sedated. Wired into tech. One Gans-huge guy, wolf tattoo, didn't even recognize me. Just muttered in some lost tongue. When we freed him, he looked me in the eye. It's inside them now, too. What is the fire? We didn't get it then, but the relics weren't just waking tech. They were waking us, altering us, rewriting us into what we were meant to be. That's what scared the council most, because we weren't just rebels anymore. We weren't just angry. We were evolving. Sky shifted. That's how we knew they'd come. No ships, no boom. Just silence, and Orion changed. 1 star vanished. 1 pulsed green. 1 throbbed blood red. Kilo, leaning on his bad leg, watched the sky and said, "They're here." Nobody asked who. We already knew. The air felt wrong. Wind pulled sideways. Static danced in our skin like we were near something vast and ancient. The elders had arrived. The council stopped pretending. Their troops evacuated fast, rushing to orbit. Fleeing command posts we'd bled to breach. Comes dead. Satellites black. As if they didn't want witnesses. As if they knew what walked next had our name. Final broadcast came. No code. No encryption. Just this. Initiate celestial judgment. Prepare all assets for purge. Do not resist. Observe. Survive. They weren't fighting. Just watching. Cowards. I felt the tremor first in my chest. Then the soil echoed. A slow, grinding breath. Some remembered. Claimed Earth's core was shifting. Others said the relics had formed a net underground, calling something older than history. It didn't matter how. What mattered was what followed. The sky broke not from above, but from around. Auroras twisted into tunnels, storms with no clouds, thunder with no sound. Animals fled in herds. Rivers surged, then vanished. Nesk crawled across every bit of metal, and then they stepped in. Not gods, not beasts, just wrong, tall, gaunt, skin like soaked bone, 6 eyes, 3 shut, 3 glowing. They didn't walk, they drifted. Cloaks like smoke, flickering with stars, planets, death, no voice, just presence. One appeared in Berlin, in the crater of a council dreadnought. One wandered a camp in the Andes. One floated above the Pacific, still for 3 days, not to battle. To judge, and they watched me. We tried to vanish, go dark. Change bases, didn't matter. They followed through the relic. I couldn't sleep. When I shut my eyes, I saw them, watching, studying. Not impressed, not angry, just curious. Dissecting a broken experiment. Then came the memories. Not mine. It's visions of a war older than stars. The first war not between empires, but makers. The elders, They didn't come because we were threats. They came because they made us. I found a vault in the shattered Rockies. Off every map. Didn't need a map, the relic guided me. Inside, I saw it all. Earth didn't birth humans by chance. It was a forge. We were engineered, crafted, a failsafe. A weapon designed to slumber until agony cracked us open. The Council was never meant to reach us. They were warned. Earth was. Sealed for a reason. A cage. Not to keep us in. To keep others out, because of what we could become. And now the lock was broken. I stumbled out, shaking, haunted, seeing phantoms in stone. Voices in old tongues whispered in my head. My blood pulsed red-hot when anger arose. The relic no longer rested in my body. It was my body. Kilo met me at the charred tree line. Look, and he didn't blink. What did you see? He asked. Us? What are we? I looked back. Not the last hope. Then what? The last threat. He grinned. Good. Out from our caves, from the ashes, from the forgotten places where hope once hid. We gathered every relic shard, every silent node, every dormant vault, and turned Earth into a signal. Not of peace, of war. To war. The remembered no longer hid there. Scars. They led strikes now, walking through plasma like drizzle. The relics had reshaped them, rewired them. Some bore arms of searing light. Some conversed with machines. One boy, just 16, silenced a walker tank by screaming. We were becoming something else. Not divine, not alien, just pure. The elders continued watching, never stepping in. Not yet. They waited for a final crossing, the moment we would reach beyond the stars. That moment came in the Nevada wastes, where the last citadel of the Council stood, spire of defense arrays, armored bunkers, and anti-orbital towers built to scar the moon. We didn't creep up. We declared it. I marched to their gates with 2,000 behind me. Humans awakened. Machines reborn from wreckage. Earth itself howling. Skies churned. The winds roared like drums of war. I gave them one final offer. Surrender, or be buried in the dirt you stole. They struck first. They always do. But this time we finished it. What followed wasn't a fight, it was truth igniting. All across the planet, relics pulsed alive. Earth screamed through us. Flames twisted sideways. Gravity twisted wrong. The sky fractured, and something ancient howled from deep below not lungs, but memory. We didn't fight as an army. We struck like the last breath of something wild and holy. The Citadel fell in 13 minutes. A final Council broadcast was a single word: extinction. I stood in the wreckage where their command once ruled, just dust now. The elders hovered above it all, quiet, watching. I met their gaze, and for the first time, I spoke back. We know what we are. One elder turned toward me, its 6 eyes locked. The stars behind it dimmed. You cannot be contained. We're never meant to be. They didn't answer. Didn't have to. The verdict was cast. And the galaxy would never be the same. We were never supposed to look past the sky. That was the ceiling of our cage. Earth had always felt distant. Sealed, wrapped in a shell we couldn't name. No matter how far we reached, how far we launched, something held us back. Now I see it. The Council didn't just conquer Earth, they opened it. And in doing so, they shattered the seals the elders had set. After the Nevada Citadel's collapse, silence took over. No more dropships. No more scouts. No more strikes from orbit. Council frequencies dead. They'd abandoned their mission. They'd never admit defeat, but their retreat spoke it clearly. Earth was untouchable now. Not because we yielded, but because we horrified them. And terror was not enough. Not for the tortured. Not for the shattered. Not for the vaporized cities. Not for the caged children beneath their labs. Fear isn't justice. We wanted retribution. The elders remained, always watching, one perched in the Himalayas. One slept beneath the Atlantic depths. One lingered, in orbit, still wordless. They hadn't stopped us, but they hadn't helped either. Maybe they needed to see how far we'd fall. Maybe they wanted to know if we'd become the monster they'd buried here eons ago. Spoiler, we already had. Our brightest minds, those who survived, began unlocking the relic's deepest codes. They weren't just relics. They were keys. 2 genes. 2 time. 2 everything. The things buried beneath us, they weren't bombs. They were doors, not rockets, but bridges. Warp-free gates that tore through space itself. They had slept since, before the first civilization, maybe longer. The Council had known. They'd never split the crust, never terraformed the core. They feared the doors. Their mistake. We broke one open. In Utah's salt flats, the greatest relic on Earth came to life. It wasn't just beautiful. It was alive. The land split for 10 miles. Pillars rose, thrumming. Symbols spiraled upward like cloud script. A light string bloomed wide enough to consume a cruiser hole. The Remembered called it the Sky Gate. Called it Ardhopeth, because I knew exactly where we were going. Council Prime, their origin world. The debate didn't take long. Some feared Earth would be vulnerable. Others doubted the relic's stability. A few whispered fears in the cove from the caves, from the ashes, from the buried sanctuaries where we once waited and wept. We unearthed every artifact, every dormant AI, every forgotten cache, and turned Earth into a siren. Not for Aedeon, for vengeance. The Remembered no longer wore masks. They led assaults, walking through plasma storms like rain. The relics had changed them, rewired their cores. Some bore arms made of light, some whispered in machine tongue. One boy, just 16, leveled a tank with a scream. We were becoming different, not alien, not divine, just raw. The elders observed from afar, but stayed their hands. For now, they waited for the breaking point. The instant we dared the stars themselves. That moment came in the Nevada wasteland, where the Council's last citadel stood tall. A fortress of orbital cannons, bunkers shielded by myth, towers that could strike lunar stone. We didn't sneak. We declared ourselves. I marched to there. Gates with 2,000 warriors at my back. Human minds remembered. Machines stirred in ancient halls. Even Earth rose behind us. Thunder screamed. Wind cried blood. And I gave them one final choice. Surrender or be buried here. They opened fire. Always do. But this time we finished it. What came next, I can't name. It wasn't war. It was revelation. The relics lit like flares. Earth howled. Fire raged sideways. Gravity screamed. Sky split open. Something from deep within the dirt cried out, not with lungs, with memory. We didn't fight like armies. We fought like a species remembering its birthright. The Citadel crumbled in 13 minutes. Their last broadcast one word, extinction. I stood in the ruins of their command. Heat and silence remained. The elders hovered above the wreckage, wordless, watching. I looked up, and for the first time I answered, we remember who we are. One turned its 6 eyes upon me. The cosmos behind it dimmed. You cannot be caged. We never were, they offered. No reply. None needed. The verdict was sealed. The galaxy would tremble from this moment forward. We were never meant to reach beyond the sky. That was the lie, the true prison. Earth had always felt trapped, fenced by invisible hands. No matter how many satellites we launched, something always blocked the path. Now we knew what. The Council didn't just invade, they triggered something. Broke seals, the elders locked. Away eons ago. After Nevada, silence fell. No more invaders. No more scans. No more strikes. Council systems offline, their conquest. Abandoned, they'd never admit fear, but they ran, and Earth. Earth became forbidden, not because we begged, because we terrified. But fear wasn't justice. Not for the lost, not for those twisted in labs, not for ash-covered cities, not for the dead children kept in cages. Fear wasn't enough. We wanted blood. The elders still lingered, always above, never speaking. One beneath the sea, one over the mountains, one in orbit, watching, never interfering. Maybe they were testing us. Maybe they feared the beast they'd buried millennia ago. Spoiler, we already were it. Our brightest minds, barely alive, began decrypting the relics. Turns out they weren't. Just artifacts. They were keys, genetic, temporal, dimensional. The structures buried beneath our feet, they weren't weapons. They were launch engines, not for rockets, for bridges. Gateways ripping space without light speed. They'd slept since before time was written. The Council knew. That's why they feared breaking Earth's crust, afraid to wake the doors. Too late, we kicked one wide. In Utah's salt flats, the biggest relic on Earth awakened. Not just visual, a machine made of geometry. 10 miles of land cracked, towers rose, humming. Glyphs carved the clouds like fire code. Gate opened huge enough to swallow a cruiser. The Remembered called it the Sky Gate. Called it our one-way road to hell, because I knew where it led. Council Prime, their cradle world, the debate. Brief, some feared leaving Earth exposed. Some doubted the relic's stability. Some whispered we'd never return. I looked them in the eyes. Returning was never the point. Ending this is... 2 days later, we moved. I led the spear. 70 fighters. 5 remembered. 2 reawakened titans pulled from frozen wrecks in the wastes. 1 vessel stitched from shattered tech and rage. The gate opened like a scream inside water. The light wasn't pure. It was violet, rotten, infinite. I didn't blink. I walked in. Council Prime wasn't what I imagined. No spires, no glory. Just a choking world strangled by symmetry. Domed. Glass cities, clean air, still skies. Too perfect, too empty, soulless. We landed outside the outer city, some artificial ring with a name I never bothered to learn. We were seen instantly. No stealth, didn't matter. This wasn't covert. This was retribution. Their troops were fast, calculated, thousands in seconds. Hover units swarmed like hornets, every one a specialist in death. But we weren't the same species they feared. We moved like fire. The Remembered tore them apart, melting metal into gas. Warden 9, the behemoth, walked through tanks like rain. A girl from Houston split a walker in half with a blade she grew. They regrouped. We broke them. And then we screamed through every cum. You came to Earth for prey. You found extinction. As we advanced on their core, something changed. They didn't fall back. They didn't charge. They stopped. Every drone, every ship, every gun. They dropped to their knees, bowed. I thought surrender. But then I looked up, and I saw them. It's the elders. 5 now. They'd followed us. Not distant anymore. And this time, the flames dwindled to embers as I stood atop their shattered command tower. The relic in my chest, once a beacon through carnage and ruin, beats slower now. Soft like a heart finishing a marathon. For the first time since the war began, there were no whispers in my skull. It's just one thought, quiet as ash. Now what? The others returned through the sky gates. From frozen bunkers in Russia, jungle clearings in Brazil, fractured towers in Tokyo, buried labs under Congo stone, they came bearing wounded relics, stolen tech, memories carved into flesh. Some couldn't speak, not from wounds, but because what they'd seen across the gates couldn't be spoken. Worlds made by the Council, then discarded. Planets more broken than Earth. Civilizations stripped and enslaved. We'd thought we were alone in our pain. We weren't. And we wouldn't be the last, unless we made sure. The elders never left. They hovered above shadows forged of starlight. In fossilized will, always hidden in the clouds, always watching. Their silence wasn't cruel, it was patient. It'd seen what we'd done, how we burned through the Council like vengeance made flesh, and still they didn't intervene. They were waiting for one answer. Would we become monsters too? We didn't rebuild, not immediately. We buried our dead. We stood in ruins and remembered who we were, and we argued. Furious, endless arguments. Some wanted to burn the last of the Council out of every hiding place, purge their name from the stars. Others wanted silence, seal the gates, bury the relics. Pretend this was never more than survival. But most were like me. Tired, scarred, still burning, and awake to the truth. We were no longer a species. We were a force. And forces either move forward or destroy everything. The remembered began the new network. No nations. No borders. Just nodes. Some stayed on Earth, guarding relic sites, patching wounds. Others passed through the gates again, reaching out to those the Council had enslaved. We offered a choice: rebuild with us, or disappear. Some joined, some fled. A few resisted. They didn't resist long. I stopped wearing armor. The relic was part of me now, its glow beneath my skin, constant, faint pulsing. I didn't feel time the same way anymore. Sleep, hunger faded things. Kilo used to joke I wasn't human anymore. He stopped laughing when I stood in flame and didn't burn. One night I climbed the old Nort ruins, once built to scan for threats from other nations. Now it watched stars. There in the silence, the first elder descended. It didn't speak aloud, but I heard it clear as memory. You broke the cycle. You awakened the buried, but you were still incomplete. I stepped closer. Then what's missing? Its 6 eyes shimmered. Memory, choice, and something new. Legacy. That word hit like a hammer. We'd always fought. Always ran, always bled. But legacy, that was for those who built, who endured, who stayed. Could we even do that? The Council's core species had scattered, leaderless, shamed, but they would return. Someday, with new names and new flags. So we prepared. We didn't claim victory. We claimed purpose. Where they burned planets, we sent aid. Where they bred slaves, we opened gates. To every broken voice we said this: Earth burned once. It will never burn alone again. The first child, born after the war, cried beneath Iceland's frost, her mother still bleeding, her father half machine. They named her Astronaut for ash, but for ashers. The ones who rose from the dirt and said, no, I never went back to Manhattan. There was nothing to return to. But in my sleep, beneath the husk of the old world, I still saw my brother not as he died, but as he lived, smiling, free. We didn't reclaim our world. We made a new one, brick by brick, scar by scar, with truths no history would dare speak. And if the stars ever come again, they'll find us waiting, not as prey, not as ghosts, but as the weapon they buried and hoped to forget. Because here's what they never understood. You can invade a world. You can raise a city. You can silence a scream. But you can't kill a species that remembers. You can't erase rage carved into bone. And you'll never, ever survive when Earth remembers what it really is.